At Ridgewood Academy, where the children of wealthy executives and high-profile politicians studied, the air was thick with privilege. Students wore custom-tailored uniforms, chatted about weekend getaways on private jets, and competed over designer bags and luxury watches. In this world of polished perfection, someone like Maria and her daughter Emily didn't quite fit in, at least not in the eyes of most. Maria was the school's janitor, quiet, respectful, always arriving before dawn. Her 12-year-old daughter Emily often came along after school, doing homework quietly in the back of empty classrooms or helping her mom carry cleaning supplies. Maria couldn't afford a babysitter, and Emily didn't mind. She found comfort in those quiet halls, among dusty shelves, and most of all, in the music room. There, Emily would gaze longingly at the beautiful classical guitar displayed behind glass, the same one used by music students during lessons. What no one knew was that music wasn't new to her. Her late father had been a passionate guitarist, and though Maria had sold most of his belongings to get by, one broken guitar had remained. Every night, Emily practiced on it, sometimes with strings missing, until her fingers blistered. One Thursday afternoon, during a free period, music teacher Mr. Daniels was leading a class of disinterested teens through some basic guitar exercises. Most students handled the instrument like it was beneath them. One struggled to tune it, another fumbled clumsily over simple chords. Mr. Daniels sighed and joked, "Looks like none of you inherited Hendrix's fingers." That's when he spotted Emily, quietly sweeping near the back. "Hey," he called out, amused. "You, janitor's kid? Want to give it a shot?" A ripple of laughter spread through the room. Emily froze. She knew from his tone it wasn't a real offer. It was a joke, a public joke. She glanced at her mother, who was too far away to hear. Still, something inside her stirred. She walked forward slowly, swallowing her nerves. Mr. Daniels raised an eyebrow but handed her the guitar. "Let's see what you've got," he smirked. Emily sat on the stool, took a breath, and rested the guitar on her lap. Her fingers moved instinctively. She began to strum the opening chords of "Tears in Heaven" by Eric Clapton. At first, the room stayed quiet. Awkward silence, waiting for her to fail. But the first few notes told a different story. They rang out, clear, crisp, soulful. Laughter faded. Eyes widened. Then came her voice. Soft. Haunting. She sang like the lyrics belonged to her. Like she had lived every line. The room's acoustics captured each note, every tremble, each pause. Mr. Daniels lowered the sheet music in his hand. Even the students who had laughed were now leaning forward, spellbound. Emily wasn't just playing. She was pouring out her soul, her grief, her memories, her hope. As the final chord faded, the room stayed frozen. Mr. Daniels cleared his throat. Where did you learn to play like that?" Emily gave a small smile. "My dad taught me, before he passed." A thick silence hung in the air. Then, a single clap. One student stood, applauding. Then another, until the room erupted in applause that echoed down the halls. In that moment, the janitor's daughter wasn't a punchline. She was the most talented person in the room. As the applause lingered, Emily handed the guitar back to Mr. Daniels. He held it gently, almost reverently. The smirk on his face had vanished, replaced with quiet awe. "Emily," he asked, voice softer now, "how long have you been playing?" She tucked a loose strand of hair behind her ear. "Since I was 6. My dad taught me. We didn't have much, but there was always music." A few students whispered to one another. Even the ones who had laughed looked down, ashamed. Mr. Daniels nodded thoughtfully. "Would you consider joining the school's music club?" Emily blinked. "But I'm not a student here." "I know," he said, "but I'll speak to the principal." Maybe we can make an exception." At that moment, Maria stepped into the room, confused by the applause she'd heard down the hall. She saw Emily standing at the front of the class with a guitar in hand, and paused. "Emily, what's going on?" Before her daughter could answer, Mr. Daniels stepped forward. "Ma'am," he said with rare humility, "your daughter has an extraordinary gift. I'd like to invite her to perform in our upcoming winter showcase." Maria looked stunned. "Perform? But she's not a student. I clean here." "Yes," he replied. "But that doesn't mean her talent should be hidden. We'll take care of everything. Just please let her play." Emily looked up at her mother, eyes pleading. Maria hesitated. She had spent years teaching Emily to stay quiet, to never draw attention. But in that moment she realized her daughter wasn't born to hide. She nodded. "If Emily wants to, then yes." The next 3 weeks changed everything. Emily was given supervised access to the music room, practicing on professional grade instruments for the first time in her life. Mr. Daniels worked with her personally. Word of her talent spread quickly. Even the wealthiest students, the ones who once scoffed, now watched her with admiration. The night of the winter showcase arrived. Parents, donors, and board members, dressed in evening wear, filled the auditorium. No one gave much thought to Emily's name on the program. To most, she was a last-minute addition. Until she stepped onto the stage. Wearing a simple dress, holding her father's old guitar, now lovingly restored by the school's music department, she sat beneath the spotlight and played. From flamenco rhythms to soft acoustic ballads, she flowed through the melodies with the poise of a seasoned performer. Her final piece, an original composition, was a tribute to her father, a blend of jazz, blues, and folk that made even the most elite parents sit upright in awe. When she finished, the silence was thick. Then, applause, a standing ovation, not out of politeness, but pure admiration. Backstage, the school principal approached Maria and Mr. Daniels, eyes glistening with tears. "We'd like to offer Emily a full scholarship here," she said. "Her gift deserves to be nurtured." Maria's hands trembled. You would do that?" "Absolutely," the principal replied. "Starting next semester." Emily burst into tears, wrapping her arms around her mother. In the weeks that followed, Emily's story spread, on local news, across social media. People were inspired by the girl who rose above judgment, whose music shattered barriers of class and pride. And at Ridgewood Academy, something shifted. Staff and students began to see beyond last names and expensive uniforms. They began to understand that brilliance can come from anywhere, even from the daughter of a janitor.